All right, so here's my story. I'm going to do a really quick video on this because it's not too difficult, and I know all the details, and like it's chronological, so it should be pretty straightforward. My injury, my Achilles tendon injury, occurred on October 13th, which was a Friday, by the way, just in case anybody is superstitious. Anyway, I was pushing a motor vehicle that was had frozen calipers somewhat, and basically I was pushing the vehicle and I thought I was moving it, and I was not, and I was wearing what a lot of people like to call minimalist shoes, and I believe it partially contributed to my Achilles tendon injury. And it's not the shoes' fault, really, but it was the fact that I was wearing the shoes that I believe that contributed to um, me getting injured. Um, my injury, I believe, was an overextension of the Achilles tendon and not just a weak. I don't believe it was like a weak rupture or something that would indicate that I have weakening tendons by any means. I'm 30 years old. Um, and what happened was is that I was pushing the car with my minimalist shoes, and my minimalist shoes are minimalist shoes. They're flat. For people that don't know, there's no support. There's no ankle support. There's no arch support. There's nothing. There's no cushion underneath. It's basically just it's kind of like wrapping a cloth around your feet, and walking in those. And they're great shoes. I love them. I will never turn away from minimalist shoes at this point. I think they're great. They feel great, and when you're walking outside, it's like walking barefoot essentially. Um, but because I had no cushion underneath, no sole that was supporting my foot, my foot was essentially flat with the ground, and I was kind of also pushing the vehicle uphill. So you can imagine that if I'm pushing it this way, and I have minimalist shoes that are flat with the ground, as I'm pushing and pushing and applying more pressure, um, my foot is actually going to. So assume this is my foot here and my leg. I'm actually pushing more, trying to apply more pressure, and because of that, I'm pulling my Achilles tendon. And that's why I believe I had a 90% or so rupture. And it wasn't. It was a high grade tear. They call it. The doctors called it. It was a 2 centimeter gap. It was about 6.1 centimeters above my calcaneus, which is the heel bone. Um, so it occurred in what's known by to some doctors as the watershed region, which just basically indicates that there's the least amount of blood flow at that point in the tendon, um, or at that area of the tendon. And so I believe my overstretching and overexertion is what ultimately just pulled the rubber band um, way farther than it should be able to go, and that's why it ruptured. So basically, that happened at about 9:30 p.m. and I immediately got an ambulance because it was an immense amount of pain almost immediately. A lot of people ask you, did it feel like someone kicked you, whatever? I didn't hear a snap. I didn't hear a pop. I didn't feel like anyone kicked me. I just felt like someone took my leg and my foot and just completely separated them. And I ended up hopping to my left foot, lifting up my right leg, and my foot was just wobbling all over the place. And believe it or not, I could actually, with the assistance of another person, I was actually able to basically like, let's say this is my pinky toe. I was actually able to like pressure on the outside of my foot, as I was being helped up the hill to the ambulance, to where the ambulance was going to come. So went to the ER. Basically got my foot, got a Thompson test done, which is when they squeeze the calf. Um, and when they squeeze the calf, what they're looking for is a reaction. Assuming this is the leg and this is the foot, when they squeeze the calf, they're expecting the foot to react in some way, usually to push down. Um, and there was no reaction. So the conclusion was that my Achilles tendon had ruptured. No X-rays, no MRIs, nothing at that time of night. Um, so they put me in a splint. They pointed my foot partially downward, which is called plantar flexion. Foot down is plantar flexion, foot up is dorsiflexion. So they put your foot plantar flexion, because what it is intended to do is to bring the two ends of the tendon together or closer together so that it repairs, so that when your body repairs it, it repairs it at the length that it should be. Um, so they did that. Then 2 days later, I went to a different ER because I wanted to figure out why I never got an X-ray to confirm, there was no other issues, and ended up getting an X-ray. X-ray confirmed that there was no other issues like with bones or any other parts of my body. And then I had an MRI done on the Wednesday after October 13th, so that might be the 18th or something. I got an MRI done. 2 days later on that Friday, I saw my first orthopedist appointment. So a week later after the injury, my first orthopedist appointment, uh, that basically reviewed my MRI. Um, Actually, no, my first orthopedist appointment was the Monday. So it was the Sunday that I had the gone to the ER. The Monday I went to the orthopedist for the first appointment. Then they booked the MRI for the Wednesday, and then they booked uh, the second MRI review for that Friday, which I had to push actually, which was very frustrating for me because there was the person trying to book the appointment was essentially trying to book my MRI for a month out, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" So definitely push for that. If you believe that if they require it, definitely push for an earlier MRI appointment if possible. Um, so I booked the MRI appointment, and then I wanted to get another couple of opinions. So I think I want to say two or three more doctors' opinions. It took me two more doctors' opinions to realize that, or rather, one more doctor's opinion to realize that I had not been looking to see if the doctors were board certified. Board certification seems to indicate that they have gone through some extra training or that they had to pass some other exams, some more rigorous exams to attain the board certification. And obviously, they were reviewed by a board of other certified surgeons. And then that's how they became board certified. I didn't even think of that, and honestly, that's definitely what slowed the pace for me. Getting the surgery or not getting the surgery, and starting my rehab. Um, so that basically, I got two or three more opinions. The final opinion that I got was from a doctor from the hospitals for special surgery in New York City, and he had told me that I definitely should get the surgery. Um, and I didn't ask him about it, but I was mainly waiting for him to tell me that what the benefits of it were, or rather, I was waiting for the benefit that I was looking for. And he did eventually say it when I asked him about the benefits. And what he said was that the reason to get surgery is to basically guarantee the strength, the return of your strength, and that was the main criteria for me when it came to deciding surgery or not surgery. So it's kind of funny that I got that opinion from him. Um, so I had also asked him about range of motion, re-rupture rates, and things like that, and he basically said the thing about surgery is that it's more predictable in terms of getting results. So I figured, what's the worst thing, right? I'm 30 years old. I do a lot of activities. I hike, snowboard, mountain bike, run. I'm outside a lot. I do a lot of activity in the outdoors, um, and some of it can be somewhat intense. And so I wanted to make sure I had the best probability to live my life to the fullest. And I believe the conservative route doesn't guarantee it as much as a surgery does. I feel like the surgery allows you to basically, like the doctor said, it's more predictable, but also that it's something that's been done a lot more frequently, and it just seems to yield the results that I'm looking for in terms of strength, and that's my biggest concern really. Re-rupture rate was kind of secondary, but strength was definitely number one, and getting my range of motion back is pretty good, important to me as well. Since I do snowboarding and I do go in some pretty difficult terrain. I mean, the last thing I need is for my ankle or my Achilles tendon to give me issues on, a very steep slope. So but basically, that's once I realized I got a board certified surgeon telling me his opinion and basing it off of his experience, and he's done a lot of these procedures. Because that was the other thing, I was looking for a surgeon that did this procedure a lot. I wasn't looking for somebody that this is kind of secondary to them. I wasn't going to like a hip replacement doctor for an Achilles tendon rupture repair. It's a relatively easy procedure because it's right behind the leg, and they just open you up there. But I did want someone that had done it plenty of times before. So I got the surgery done last week, last Tuesday on November 14th. That on November 14th, that was about the 4.5 week mark. So now today, I believe, is November 20th. So we are about 5.5 weeks now. It's the day before Thanksgiving, so I believe it's the 20th. Um, so it's day before Thanksgiving. Next Monday, I will be getting my post op appointment, and it looks like they're going to be putting me in a walking boot, and I assume I'm going to be partially weight bearing. That was what was indicated to me from the doctor after the surgery. So we'll see what ends up actually happening. I imagine they're going to look at the wound and make sure everything's okay, and also obviously take the sutures out of the skin, um, because I don't believe they're absorbable on the skin. So that's my follow up appointment. That will mark 6.5 weeks. Um, some things I can definitely say are, um, don't feel like in your if you're in a don't feel like you're in a rush to get surgery or not get surgery. Um, if you addressed it soon. If you address the issue immediately, like I said, getting your foot put into that plantar flexion position within the first day or so after getting the rupture, it gives you a little bit of leeway to get that done. However, I would say, obviously everybody wants to get back to work and everybody wants to get back to what they get back to life. Um, I would say if in my consensus, um, if it's a full rupture, if it's a couple centimeters gap, absolutely, absolutely get the surgery. I just don't see any reason not to get the surgery. Um, I think the medical consensus is not really there. If you browse medical journals, which I did for weeks as well as I was getting other opinions, there's just no real consensus. The only real thing that's guaranteed is that the re-rupture rate is lower for surgery. Other than that, it doesn't seem like range of motion, strength, all that stuff. It doesn't seem like there's any, one way or the other is greater because, um, you also have to look at the demographics. The demographics of people that go the conservative route, usually in the past, um, are frequently people that are older or that are okay with getting, okay with quitting a sport or okay with changing their lifestyle because of their injury. And the people that are getting the injury and going with surgery are typically people that don't have an interest in changing their lifestyle, and so they go with the surgery. So just to base it off of just that criterion in itself, if you plan on going back to sport, just do the surgery. Just don't and if you don't want to change anything about your life, do the surgery and get it done soon. Because then the sooner you start that, the sooner you can get going and rehabbing. Um, and obviously, you can follow my progress and see how I do. But if you're okay with taking a little bit longer to get better, assuming your rupture is large, um, then you can go the conservative route. You don't have to get a wound, and that was one of the things I didn't like either. I had to get a wound. Now I have a scar. Some people may not be okay with that. I'm half and half with that. Um, conservative route, it works. There's plenty of documentation out there. There's tons of people in Australia, the United Kingdom, and Canada that are going the conservative route just because the universal health care is essentially forcing them into that. So do that. Get it done and start the rehab process because unfortunately the rehab process seems to take about 6 months on average. And We all got to make our money and go to work. So don't try to delay too much. It's easy to get sunk into medical journals, and honestly, just there's just real no consensus. And to save you the trouble, just don't even read the medical journals. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I've read all the medical journals in and out multiple times. And like I said, there's no consensus for anything but re-rupture rate. All the studies that say that conservative is perfectly, you get the same results as surgery, um, are are journals that are either not observational studies or not randomized controlled trials, or they have like maybe 100 patients in the study, and 100 patients is not a good indicator of billions of people around the world. So I struggle to trust studies that have under 1,000 patients. Um, there was one there's one study that was okay. It did refer to some observational studies and randomized controlled trials, but there were some of them were very old. Some of those had 100 patients each. So but I'd be glad to direct anybody if you guys have any questions. I'll try to answer what I can. And I tried keeping this short, but I know I struggled here. I'm a little bit 16 minutes. So again, any questions, let me know, and I'll try to help. If you have any questions about what you should use, or to kind of get by in life, um, and keep up with what you're doing, just feel free to ask. The last thing I gotta say is that I haven't gotten to walking yet. Now, like I said, next week is probably when I'll start walking, partial weight bearing at least. But the one thing I can say is work out as much as you can. Make sure that you do leg exercises. What I like to do are I basically like to lay on my back and do leg raises. So I'll lay on my back, do leg raises, then I'll lay on one side and do leg raises on the side. And I'll do that on all four sides of my body. So both sides, the front, and then laying on my belly. Um, and honestly, I think that's going to help me. I'll confirm that. And I try to do it daily just to keep my leg ready to go. I definitely started late though, so we'll see how it goes.